time to strap in and get ready. The leaders in NRL SuperCoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Mattrix and Whisperer.
Yes, welcome back to the Insight NRL Show. We've got a very different episode coming to you now. Of course, in the past, I'm sure if you've played SuperCoach as long as we have, you've got players that have always let you down, but you've also got the players that are automatic go-tos every single year. So this episode is called My Guys. We've all got our guys. So you're going to get 3 of them each. You're going to get 9 players that we really love this year that haven't left our teams potentially this year as well. Mattrix, obviously trying to nail down who your guys are is a pretty easy one because I think everybody in the comments would already know who one of your My Guys is.
Yeah, look, Kanye wrote a song about him. It was pretty easy to get that one down pat. But having a look at some of the other ones, I had to make sure I didn't step on any of you guys' toes. So yeah, and it was just legit looking at my first draft of my team and who's stuck with it. Because you don't automatically always think of your My Guys. I think about Luke Metcalf all the time, but you don't always think about your other My Guys because, you know, they were sort of almost like preseason set and forgets.
I don't know about you, Josh, but I always think about all my Guys, you know, to a point where we get criticised for pushing an agenda on a specific player consistently throughout the preseason, throughout the season, throughout the off-season. You got plenty, I'm sure.
Yeah, I got plenty of guys. I love guys. I love all the guys. I love all my guys. Look, yeah, I mean, you got guys you gravitate to. There's guys you do deep stats on. They're the ones that stick out to you, and they're the ones that when they flop, everyone comes for you. So it's fun. But when they succeed, though, they never ever say well done. They never ever say congratulations. It's always when they suffer. So,
yeah, there's no real thanks, is there? It's a thankless job, this podcasting. So, but in saying that, I'll tell you what, they let us know when you fuck it up. So I'm sure that there's going to be that coming this year. We're not perfect. We'll definitely make some picks this year that aren't fantastic. But the episode, we're going to be covering our 9 My Guys. We've got 3 each that we'll talk to you about, and we'll try our best to convince you to put them in your team as well. But before we do that, please hit subscribe and like. We'd really appreciate you doing that to get the episode out to more people. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, Google, my iHeartRadio, apparently we're on, which is really weird. But anyway, we're out there.
Audible too.
Audible. So if you want to listen to an audio book, something really chilled, like maybe a Simon Sinek one, because I like listening to Simon Sinek audio books. He's quite good to listen to. Or you can listen to the Insight Fantasy Sports NRL SuperCoach podcast as well. Give us a follow and leave us a review. We'd love that. Guys, obviously, there might be some obvious picks tonight. So we're tried not to double up. I've done my best not to double up, and I've tried to find players potentially that have been in my team that I haven't overly talked about that much, but in saying that, they're my guys for a reason. So, Josh, you've obviously got pretty strong opinions about your 3, and I think maybe your 3 might be in my team, to be honest. So do you want to kick us off with your first one?
Yeah, my phone's just died at the best time, so I'm going to raw dog this episode.
Yes.
My first one, I mean, I just want to preface that I've pumped up Alex Seyfarth enough that I probably don't need to talk about him. He is my number 1 guy. But the first one is Greg Marzhew, left winger from the Newcastle Knights. Obviously a down year last year for him, but I think we forget he started the season slow with that hand injury and basically dealt with bumps and bruises and strains and striations and whatever all throughout the season. Only 7 tries last year, down on what he's done in previous years. Another big thing for me that is a big tick is the statistical data that backs up the man inside him. Bradman Best averages 46 without Bradman Best, averages 58 with him in the side. Another really, really good point, boys, is Kalen Ponga. We know how left side dominant he is. Averages 100 points a game against bottom 8 sides. I think they play something like the Dolphins, the Tigers, and the Titans to start the season as well, Newcastle. So a very, very nice opening stint for Greg. Tackle busting machine. Hopefully get that base stats back up as well. So yeah, big Greg Marzhew guy. And he's a guy that pretty much hasn't left my side since, early January.
Yeah, Greg the leg. very, very hard to go against him this year with the run that the Newcastle Knights have to start the season. We've been talking about Ponga. We've been talking about another guy that's one of my guys. I won't spoil it, but these Newcastle Knights players are in a really good spot, Mattrix, to potentially take advantage of that nice, juicy early draw. And obviously Ponga sweeping left as a preference. We didn't see as much of it last year, but hopefully is there any concern for you around the fact that they really didn't go to his side or didn't, obviously with Best being out, the stats are skewed. Do you still see Marzhew taking a step back?
I'm quite bullish on the fact that their best attacker last year has moved positions, being Fletcher Sharp. So, if that happens, then James Schiller goes on the wing, and no disrespect to James Schiller, but he's no Fletcher Sharp or Greg Marzhew. So with Best back, with Lucas potentially playing on that left edge as well, then you would expect them to try and hammer those strengths, which is that left side attack. And there's talk also that Frizzell might be moving to the middle at times. So he's the only real strength they've got on the right. So you'd think if they're just going to mortgage their bets on the left, then it's all Greg. But I think we're picking him up at the low anyway. Like I don't think he can get much worse.
Yeah, there's not much risk really picking up Greg Marzhew at 500K. That he'll probably maintain that price at worst case. So, Mattrix, who's your first my guy, mate?
I'm going to go Tom Gilbert. His base, honestly, currently exceeds his starting price. For me, it's a no-brainer, even coming back from the injury. He has had an extremely long time to come back from this injury. I know it was particularly gruesome, but looking at it, it has been a long time. So I'm hoping that he just comes back, slots in. Even if he starts slow, I think that he'll be completely fine. Training in the middle, like where we want him. I was even excited with him playing on an edge. I was looking into stats on that earlier. But whether he's on an edge, whether he's in the middle, he's an origin player that's coming back to the Dolphins. The Dolphins need him. Like, I'm not expecting somebody like Finafuiaki to come and, take his spot, or any of these other guys to come and take his spot. I think this spot is his for when he's there. And look, I'm not going to be surprised if at 460K, he touches 600K and you're just holding him there at the end of the year. Even if it's 550 at the end of the year, you've had this consistent Tom Gilbert. And I've always chased high upside center wings. But I do like a consistent second rower that I can just plug and play. I'm completely fine there. Let's chase the upside on the high upside positions, I suppose.
Yeah, hard to argue against Tom Gilbert. I think the only question mark is the injury history. Obviously he's had a bit of a bad run over the last 18 to 24 months, getting injured doing that knee or shoulder, I should say, in 2023. Round 12, didn't play any games, then did the ACL at the back end or in the preseason last year, didn't see any football at all. But when he was starting in the 13 for the Finns there at the start of their campaign, he had 51 base, which, that's base itself, more than his actual starting price that he's priced at. It's pretty much automatic price gain there. And upside is your best friend, I think, when it comes to Tom Gilbert, if he crashes over the line or it just at least gets back to somewhat of himself. Josh, any extra love there for Tom Gilbert yourself?
Yeah, probably just a concern over minutes with Plath playing so well and coming off the back of a serious knee injury. But, if he's getting 50, 55 minutes, then, that base just covers itself and then everything else is just upside from there.
Yeah, for sure. My guy, and everyone can guess who it is going to be Kelma Tuilagi. I think off the back of and also
all three of our guys. By the way, I think you've convinced.
To be fair, I'm gonna go out there and say I was on him first, and I convinced Josh to get on him. So
you definitely convinced all of us.
He's got to get. It's going to be my fault when he inevitably fucks up.
Yes,
so that's fine. But he's my guy. I'm pretty confident in the fact that we're going to see his best footy this year. I think obviously with Sean Lane. Potentially either a middle or potentially even out of the side. At this point, there's a lot of word coming out of para training that he's kind of in and out and doing bits and pieces with the twos, playing in the middle. I don't see him competing with Kelma Tuilagi. I think that left edge is his. Charlie Geimer seems to have locked down the other edge, which we see Bryce Cartwright doing some stuff with the twos as well, which I think is. I don't know whether that's going to eventuate, but. In saying that, I think Kelma is the guy that is locked into his spot as opposed to Charlie Geimer, who's probably still competing for a spot on the edge there. So, 30 bases is not exactly that great, but I think the try scoring upside when we look at Kelma is way too good averaged 66 points in games that he played over 70 minutes. So if he can lock down the minutes on that edge and be that 80-minute edge guy outside, depending on what edge he plays on, I don't think it really matters what edge he plays on outside Dylan Brown or Mitchell Moses. For me, if he's outside Mitchell Moses, we remember what Isaiah Papali'i did on Moses's right hip 2 years ago. So it's hard, or 3 years ago, I should say. So it's hard to forget that. So Kelma Tuilagi, I feel like he's going to have a pretty big year this year. As soon as I put him in my team, he hasn't left. Any argument against it or any concerns against it, Mattrix, before we move on?
Look, not really. I just get concerned with like you've got your Sean Lanes, you've got your Ryan Madisons, you've got your Bryce Cartwrights, you've got so many second rowers that I think are fantastic players. I just wonder if, he doesn't get the burn that we hope, because we have at times thought this of Kelma Tuilagi, like what? How many times over the last 3 years? I'm just hoping not to get burnt again by it. But look, the price checks out, the position checks out. Look, I really hope you're right. So,
and he only scored 3 tries last year. I feel like there's a try scoring upside in Kelma Tuilagi as well, running off Dylan Brown's hip if he's on the left. We saw what Sean Lane did 2 years ago before he kind of fell into the abyss. So I'm hoping that they might be able to strike a connection. It seems like he's been on that edge all of preseason as well, which I think is really positive. Yeah, they haven't shuffled him. They haven't moved him around. They haven't experimented with his position. He's just been locked down there on that edge. So let's see. We'll see how we go, but he's definitely my first my guy. Josh, who is coming back to you, mate? Who's your second my guy this year?
So you spoke about a Parramatta back rower being your guy, and I feel like we got burnt by Parramatta back rowers last year.
Mm-hmm.
We also got burnt by Parramatta hookers last year, but we're going
Joey Lussick.
We're going back to the same man. It's Brendan Hands, baby. 349K, average 53 points a game through his career over 60 minutes. So that's straight away nearly 20 points of value. The big uptick for me for Brendan Hands is another year of progression in the position. Grew up playing a bit through the middle, so he's only had, I think, 2 years of really playing hooker. And another big positive, it looks like Joey Lussick has been splitting reps with Riley Smith in the twos with the New South Wales Cup boys. So if Hands is playing, 80, or even if they pick someone like I think it's Josiah Papali'i, correct me if I'm wrong on the name there, but if they pick him at like a 14, then you would think at least 60 minutes for Hands on the bench, at least 60 minutes for Hands, then coming off to the bench. But at 350K, boys, I much prefer him over Mamazelis.
Completely agree. Mattrix, what are your thoughts, first of all?
Yeah, you have kind of won me over with the conversation, and we have a lot of these conversations in group chats before. But yeah, I just look up at Brendan Hands and go, shit, here we go again.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas about it, isn't there?
Here we go again.
yeah, exactly. But you're right. If not a real 9 doesn't really get named on the bench, and it's not splitting reps, and there's not all those question marks, Brendan Hands could be the Brendan Hands that we'd hoped for last year.
All three of us have 3 gun fullbacks. Like, we've made that no secret, in our team setup. And believe it or not, guys, when you're spending $2.5 million at fullback, you can't really have Angus Crichton, Dave Fafita, and Hamoli Kawatsu in your teams in your second row. And we didn't really want to run with Aaron Clark as our headline 2RF. So we've had to go a bit mid in the 2RF, which leaves a bit of sacrifice coming. And it looks like hooker for me, I don't know about you boys, but for me is where I'm looking at punting a little bit. And I'll tell you what, if Hands gives me anywhere close to his career average over 60 minutes of 53, then I'll be a very, very happy boy. He's younger than Lussick. He's probably got a better ceiling than Lussick. He's probably got a better floor than Lussick.
He's probably better than Lussick.
He's probably better than Lussick. Yeah.
I mean, if it looks like chicken and it smells like chicken and it tastes like chicken, then it's probably chicken.
Still turkey.
But look, I think I understand that we're hurt by last year, but if the only way that I'll say this on the podcast, the only way Brendan Hands is not in my side is if we get Tom Duffy at halfback.
I reckon I could probably have both. I reckon.
No, because we have to have Brisbane Broncos finest Corey Pakes at 230K.
I also have him. Maybe I'll just have all 3.
So your flex position will be Corey Pakes. Nice.
Yeah. That's it. Corey Pakes at flex. That's me. Mattrix, who's your second my guy?
Look, I'm going to go back to the well. Luke Metcalf. If we did a My Guys episode last year,
death taxes and
Luke Metcalf. Look, I'm gonna like, I'm a stats man, guys. So I'm gonna use Josh's favorite stat. Taking out games that he got injured in, he averaged 65 and is priced at a 45. With SJ gone, he's as much of a lock as I'd seen. I'm not really scared of Tanner Boyd signing with the Wars. I think that he's more insurance than anything. I do think if Tanner Boyd does squeeze his way in instead of, say, a Tamari Martin or somebody like that, then the goal kicking and things like that start to become a bit of a concern. But Josh did a little bit of a chat about Tamari today, and Tamari at halfback.
I always get so scared whenever you two say Josh did this, and I'm like, fuck, what have I done?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite pastimes is setting you up like that.
It's just stressing me out, like giving me massive anxiety.
I got this picture of a BlackBerry Cruiser today, but no, really. I do think Tamari Martin and Luke Metcalf are the best halves there. I also think they're looking to the future now with SJ gone. I think Luke Metcalf's young. I think that he scored very well, SuperCoach wise. I think that he played really well last time he played. That was why I was so high on him last year as well. Unfortunate injury. Let's go back to the well.
Isn't it really funny, Brain, last year that I feel like in preseason, Mattrix was like, wait, Luke Metcalf, he could be a go. And you and I were like,
we laughed at him.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Same with Paul Alamonte. We were like, shut up. And then now all of a sudden we're like, 12 months later, we're like, fuck Luke Metcalf. Like, he's locked into our sides.
Yeah. That guy's good.
I have a question for you, Mattrix.
Jesus walks.
Does your opinion on Metcalf change on the weekend? We're very, very thankful that Andrew Webster's named pretty much a full-strength squad for the Warriors. Does I still think you'd pick him, but does your keenness on Metcalf change if they score a try and then you see Adam Pompey with the tee in his hand?
Yeah, yes, and I still have him in my team regardless, but the goal kicking is an added bonus, I think, with Luke Metcalf. I just think he's underpriced. Look, maybe he's 10 points of value instead of, 15.
Yeah, that's probably what I'd say. I'd say, yeah, goal kicking. Honestly, I haven't thought about taking Luke Metcalf out of my team, but the only consideration I would have is if he wasn't goal kicking, I'd think about it. I don't know whether I'd do it, but I'd think about it.
It's like I'm not a really coffee connoisseur, but if you get a cappuccino, right, and they forget the chocolate topping on top, you're like, look, it's still coffee. It's still what I paid for, but like I would have liked the sprinkles on top, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
I get
like
it. You're busy. It's a long line. You're new. It happens.
Coffee drinkers don't care, man. If they give you decaf, like I'm so off them. Like if you give me decaf Luke Metcalf, not a chance.
Decaf Luke Metcalf is just Adam Dewey.
That could be the call of the year. I don't know. I think twice. If Luke Metcalf wasn't kicking, I'd look elsewhere. But I think at the moment, while he's kicking,
though, because we've set our team up to have a 450k 5/8. Like, if he's not kicking, and Adam Dewey is round one.
Nah, don't talk to me about Adam. We had this conversation. We had not an argument, but I'm like, don't talk to me about Dewey. Just don't, because I can't do it to myself. I've already got fucking 17 Tigers players in my squad. I've already got like 6 Tigers players that I'm looking at the moment. I don't need 7. That's a problem for me. So anyway, all right, let's move on to the next my guy. It's my turn, and I get to talk about Dylan Lucas. And for me, he's a guy that I feel he's only 12% owned, which I thought was really surprising. He's a guy for me that has been in my team from day one since the team picker. I had him in at centre wing. I think his value dissipates a little bit at 2RF. I don't love picking him at 2RF. I think where you're going to pick him is centre wing. But when we look at his average when he plays over 70 minutes, especially last year, and when he started in the back row on an edge for 70-plus minutes, he averaged 68.9. So for me, look, if I can get a 67, 68 average, he's priced at a 62 this year. For me, with the Knights draw as well, I feel like he's going to find some attacking stats this year, especially if we see Ponga starting to float down the left again and starting to find that combination that he had with the left edge. Dylan Lucas is going to have such a massive role to play. And we saw Kai Pearce-Paul last year just as a professional decoy down that left edge. I don't think that they're going to be doing the same thing with Dylan Lucas. What are your thoughts, Josh? I know that he hasn't really been a guy that's been in your team, but can you see the appeal?
Hasn't he? He has been for a while. He has been for a while.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you might. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't
been influenced by big podcasters.
By big podcasters have been influenced. No, look, his value lies at centre wing for me, but it is nice to have 2RF there, considering I am going relatively cheap at 2RF. If anything, if shit hits the fan, I feel much more comfortable playing a 400k centre wing than I do playing a 400k 2RF. So if anything ever happens, I can sift Lucas up. But yeah, his numbers are great. He looks for the ball. He goes really works for it as well. Some more opposed session stuff this week from the Knights had Frizzell rotating through the middle, which obviously opens up a spot for KPP to slot out there on the right, which is his natural position as well. He's a naturally right-sided player. So yeah, I mean, I'm keen on Lucas, of course. Like the numbers speak for themselves. He's a fantasy guy. If he hasn't touched the ball for a little bit, he'll go and look for it. Yeah. He'll get a tackle bust. He'll get an offload. And I know that we always harp back to it, but like 2019, 2020, like Lockie Fitzgibbon is not the footballer that Dylan Lucas is. And he thrived with KPP on the left there. So yeah, we're just looking for that connection again.
I feel like Lucas Mattrix is like the give me the ball kind of guy. But Kai Pearce-Paul last year was like, can I have the ball, please? Would that be okay? Is it my turn? Like I don't think Dylan Lucas is going to do that.
Yeah, looking at the size of Kai Pearce-Paul and you just expect him to have a squeaky voice. You're right, but look, I don't think that I could say anything more about Dylan Lucas than you guys have. I just think that 100%. I just want to harp on the fact that his value lies at centre wing. There's so many inconsistent players early on every SuperCoach year that I play in centre wing. And they're guys that can score 100 or they're guys that can score 20. I think Dylan Lucas can get me 60 every week.
Would you say his value lies at centre wing?
I was going to say, we haven't brought that up yet, so I'm glad you spoke about that. That was good.
We talk about players with dual position and we talk about where they have value. I think Lucas has made lie at centre wing.
Yeah.
When we, I don't know. Actually, no, I'm not even going to keep going with that. That's funny enough as it is. Josh, you got your third my guy, mate. Who is it?
I want it to be Jarrell Skelton, but I feel like I mentioned him on every single podcast. So I'm going to deviate to Cronulla, and it's going to be Blake Brailey. I'm a big Blake Brailey guy.
It's actually a tongue twister, isn't it? Blake Brailey.
Big Blake Brailey.
10 times faster.
No, mate. I've had one cruise. I'm done. No, with Braille, like he's one of the few 80-minute hookers in the NRL. He is actually just quietly a very, very good hooker as well. Like very, very solid. And we see a guy like Wade Egan have a pretty big uptick when AFB went on his sort of try-scoring rampage. He went from a 47 to a 56. Now, that would take Brailey to, 65, which I don't think he's going to be there. But I think you're getting a guy that could finish the season averaging 62, 63 points a game for mid-50s in a position that's very dire. And Brailey is a guy who is going to be named every week. He will play 80 every single week. He is durable as hell. You'll never have to worry about him giving you a bad score. It's not sexy. Like if you're going out there building a sniper team to win your $1,000 a week with your wife's team, Brailey isn't a guy that you're picking because it's not sexy. But he's a guy that at the end of the season, you're sitting there ranked 800th. You've won your cash comp, and you're like, damn, I've held Royce Hunt all year, but I've also held Blake Brailey, and he's finished on a 63 average. I think with Tom Hazelton there and now and Phil Blake, I think it's just really, really big for Brails, and he's got a good attacking game close to the line, and I think he's going to thrive.
Now, when you were talking about him, I thought, I'm going to open the draft board up. I'm going to see where Josh has ranked him. And you know what? You haven't ranked him the highest out of the three of us.
Where have I got him?
No, I'm not going to say because I want people to get the draft board. But Mattrix actually rates him higher than you do.
Yes, Matty. I knew you were my favorite co-host.
And it probably come from the fact that when I was looking at the Sharks, I really struggled to find anybody I liked. And then I started looking into Brailey stats, and it's so
Blake Brailey. Are we looking up Blake Brailey?
but I'm not high on Reece Robson, and I can't go back to the well with Reed Marnie. So, like, yeah, I was looking at him, and double B's there, not triple B's, not Lonzo. Look, I was looking at Blake, and it's so consistent. And you're right, he's not going to score you an 80. But he's also not going to score you that 20. And if you can get that 50 all year, that's what I look for in draft. And basically the big draft board is about draft. So, yeah, wheels up.
Really?
It's not a big classic board, is it? That's for sure. But no, good. I'm trailing on the Blake Brailey, propaganda.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've got a question for you, Brain. Like, if we recorded this 3 weeks ago, Jeremy Marshall-King would have featured in your guys' top 3.
Yeah.
But with the news that Max Plath probably coming off the bench, are you more inclined to go a guy like Brailey over JMK?
Probably now, yes. Like, as much as I hate saying it, I'm super high on Jeremy Marshall-King. I still love him, but I think there's an adjustment I'm going to need to make there with him on my board, purely because if like we initially thought Plath was going to start at 13, we thought that Gilbert was going to start on an edge. If that still happens, then I feel a little bit better about it. But if we see Plath coming off the bench, the flexibility that Plath has positionally gives me enough concern to not start with a guy that's upwards of 550K to start the year. So, and again, look, we're talking flex. The reason why you'd pick 2 cheap hookers at flex, we've already talked about that. We won't talk about it again. But it just makes sense. That's the position you go cheap this year, unfortunately, as much as I love JMK. Maybe he's a guy I target once Sandon Smith makes me 400K.
Fuck.
Cool.
I'll buy a signed Sandon Smith jersey if I'm selling for 650.
Yeah. I'm going to buy a Dolphins number 9 jersey. Mattrix, who's your third my guy, mate?
So it's not Nicholas Hines, but I'd like to quote him. I'm the happiest I've ever been. And...
Good segue.
And
good segue.
And you know what I find professional football players like? Not playing for the Tigers. Now, Johnny Bateman is...
Great. Well played. Okay. I'll give you that.
So Johnny Bateman has gone to North Queensland. It could not feel less like England. But
true.
It also could not feel less like playing for Balmain. And he was unhappy there and still scored 53 points a game. High score of 87, had some minute dips, basically didn't want to be there and still scored 53. Priced at a 53. He's only played 2 other seasons and he's averaged 70 and he's averaged 61. Do I expect him to average 70? No. But they've bought him in. They've paid him the money. They've moved Jeremiah Nanai, from all reports, across to the other side, and they're playing Johnny Bateman there. I think that Johnny Bateman... What's that?
Just quietly, that's insane. The fact that you're moving Nanai to accommodate fucking Bateman.
I know, and I think that tells me that it's not out of the realm that Bateman could average 63, 64. And he's 520K. It's also a price that you can, if it doesn't work out, you can go down, you can go up to a Dylan Lucas, you can go down to a 350K cheapie if somebody's really working out, if it doesn't work out. But if it works out, he's just the guy that you're on early, you save a trade, he's going to generate cash, he's a start every week. I rag the Cowboys out every year and they exceed my expectations. I'm done with that. Podcasting's taught me that I'm done with ragging out the Cowboys, and I'm going to believe in what the coach is doing. And John Bateman is him.
So we can lock in Cowboys for the spoon this year, based on the fact that Mattrix has now flipped his opinion. Yep, 100%. No, I do like John Bateman. He's been in my team probably longer than any other 2RF aside from Kelma Tuilagi. He averaged 61.8 SuperCoach points per game when he played injury unaffected last year. So we're talking about a 53 average or whatever it was. There were a couple of games. I think it was 3 games that were either injury affected or HIA affected. So for me, if he stays fit and he stays on the park, everybody, we put a reel up, I think, when we were talking about John Bateman maybe 2 weeks ago, Mattrix, and everyone on social media was ripping on him because they don't think he's going to be able to handle the North Queensland humidity. What do you think, Josh? Do you reckon he can get through a full game up there in the squelching heat?
Yeah, I've got a question. So there's, 6 points difference between Bateman and Papali'i in terms of price. Like, I think all three of us agree that Papali'i will average more than Bateman this season. But who presents more value? Will Bateman, if we give Bateman a plus 6.5 handicap, do you think he beats Isaiah Papali'i this year?
Yeah,
yes.
I do. Yeah.
So you think Bateman's ending average plus 6.5 is more than Papali'i's?
So I guess there's a caveat to this. It's hard to know, but if you tell me that Papali'i is going to be starting on the right edge for the Panthers, I think I'd rethink it. When you're on Cleary's hip, I don't know whether I think that Bateman would outscore Papali'i on the right.
I thought you were saying the other way. You were saying that you don't.
No.
Cleary's hip. I was like,
I want him on Cleary's hip on the right edge. If he's named on the right edge, I think that Papali'i probably outdoes the handicap on Bateman. But
it's obvious that you guys don't have faith in my hot take plug to our previous episode where I said that Kai O'Donnell would finish the season ahead of Bateman.
Yeah, I wasn't on board with that one. No, but
funny enough, you're not on board with the ones that correlate with your team. Weird.
Yeah.
Funny.
What is confirmation bias?
No, that's fair. I think it'll be I think if Bateman plays the whole season and Papali'i plays the whole season, it'll be a nice shootout with that sort of 6.5 handicap.
Yeah, I like it. All right. Casey McLean is next up. Now,
I feel like this has come from the clouds. This is peak Stephen Bradbury. I feel like
probably.
I feel like every other option's fallen down, you're just like.
Let me tell you why I haven't chosen Connor Tracy, because I just spoke about him last episode, but he is my guy. Connor Tracy is my guy. I just didn't want to double up. I didn't want to talk about. It's been an episode since I've talked about Kelma. It's been. So I could do that, but I can't go back to back on the Connor Tracy. No.
7-day window. You can't talk about.
Yeah, that's right. There is a no trade clause, a no talk clause on Connor Tracy for 7 days. But Casey McLean's a guy that also hasn't left my team, and I'm struggling to understand the reasoning as to why people aren't keen on him and don't have him in their team. I can only assume that people have gone with his brother Jesse, just thinking potentially that it's a bit of a wing shootout between the two of them, and they're going with the cheaper option to make their preseason team look juicier. That's probably the only way I could go about it. But when we look at Casey McLean's stats from last year, there was, I think it was 6 games that he ended up getting 80 minutes and he ended up starting at centre. One of them was in the 21, but he ended up starting anyway. There was one injury-affected game there that finished the season in round 25. But in those games that he did play 80 minutes, he averaged 56 points per game. At the moment, he's priced at a 45. And the base is pretty good. You know, there were games there where he exceeded 40 base. In nearly 3 occasions, he had 37 base in that third game. For me, the try-scoring upside's there on the wing way more than it is at centre. I think he scored 3 tries at centre. Imagine what he can do on the wing if he gets that wing spot. We know Brian Totler's got the other side. But for me, I just feel like it's a pretty easy pick. You want your wingers and your centres from Penrith. They're a good team. The ball gets out there. And he's shown us last year that he can have his base and he can find his attack metrics. Any love there for Casey McLean?
Yeah, he's been in my team as well because I just can't see Jesse getting picked. People ask me all the time, about certain takes and how I would refer it to a Kanye West song. And I think it's bound to for this one because we are bound to fall in love if he's named. Taruva
also very underrated Kanye song.
Yeah, right. I can't say the Bound 2 lyrics on YouTube without getting cancelled, so I'll stop there. But Taruva did hit certain heights last year. So despite us not having him in SuperCoach, if Casey McLean's named on the wing, I'm all in. And I expect it to skyrocket there. I get confused by the Jesse. I think maybe people are making a mistake. Maybe a few more of the casuals haven't really looked at which McLean, are you McLean showing? But it's Casey.
Jesus, you got dental ads, toothpaste ads now playing in the background. No, look, I
It's
understand that it's a shootout at the moment, Josh, between Jesse and Casey, and whoever gets the spot. Obviously, it's a no-brainer if Jesse gets picked. He'll be in everyone's team. But Casey McLean only being in 12% of teams, do you think that's over or under?
It will be over. Sorry, it'll be like 12% under right now what it will be round one. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a couple of guys in that price bracket. I'm looking at Casey. I'm looking at Isaac Tongo. I'm looking at Jack Howarth as well. So, but good base, mid 400Ks with upside. I'm looking at sort of all three of those, and wherever I land, I'll have one of them. But it's just a case of which. And at the moment, it is Casey, and yeah, we'll go from there.
I like it. Very good. Guys, there's our 9 My Guys, the guys that we've been attached to all season. I'm sure there's going to be more coming. And maybe we'll do an updated My Guys episode a little bit closer to the season. But thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe and like button if you like the content and you want to make sure you don't miss any of the future episodes. Obviously, we've got plenty of Patreon content. We've got draft boards. We've got rankings coming and plenty of other stuff coming inside the Patreon. So make sure to subscribe if you want to get a little bit more and take your SuperCoach teams to new levels. We'll see you for the next episode. We've got plenty coming up as well. With Mattrix, do you want to give us everybody a little bit of a rundown on what's coming next? Because this is something that you've fallen in love with, and we're going to run with it.
Oh, I feel like maybe we should mention it on the next pod. So I'll do the intro for the next one.
Okay. All right, cool. We've kept everybody in suspense, and I love it that way. So make sure you watch the next one. We'll catch you then. See ya.
Cheerio.